The invitation was still pinned to the refrigerator, a reminder and a deadline. 6 weeks left. Do you want to go? Gunwoo was quiet for a long moment. I want him to see us. I want him to know he was wrong about our genetics, making us inferior. But more than that, I want him to see you. I want him to see that you raised us to be good people, even when he said we were defective. We're going, Jiang heard herself say with absolute certainty. All 4 of us. And we're going to show him exactly what genetically inferior actually achieves when given a chance. 10 weeks after the first phone call, the breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. Jiang was attending a networking dinner hosted by Dr. Min, one of those Seoul gatherings where business cards flow like water and every conversation could become an opportunity. She'd been working with an image consultant Dr. Min had hired, learning how to navigate these spaces with confidence, how to transform her story from a source of shame into a message of resilience. She was in the middle of a conversation with a venture capitalist named Jayan when he stopped mid-sentence, his eyes widening as he looked at something on his phone. I'm sorry, he said, but I need to make a call. Please excuse me. He rushed off, leaving Jiang confused until Dr. Min appeared at her elbow. What just happened? I have no idea, Jiang admitted. 20 minutes later, Jahan returned, his expression transformed from polite interest to intense focus. Jiangxi, I need to ask you a strange question. Do your children have any experience with artificial intelligence or machine learning? They've done some coding in their educational program, but nothing advanced. Why? Jayan pulled up his phone, showing her a video that had apparently just been uploaded to an academic forum. The title read, 8-year-old solves pending AI algorithm problem. Jiang watched as the video showed Gunwoo recorded earlier that day during his cognitive testing session, explaining a solution to what the subtitle described as a pending optimization problem in neural network training that has stumped researchers for 3 years. That's my son, Jiang whispered, not quite believing what she was seeing. That's a solution to a problem that my company has spent 200 million won trying to solve, Jayan said, his voice shaking slightly. Your 8-year-old son just solved it in 45 minutes using a whiteboard. Dr. Nin had appeared, looking stunned. I posted that video an hour ago to share with my research network. It's already been shared 300 times. Jiangxi, your children aren't just cognitively and rethinking in ways that are solving real-world problems researchers can't crack. Within 3 days, Jiang's phone was ringing constantly with calls from tech companies, research institutions, and venture capital firms wanting to know if the other triplets could solve similar problems. The answer, it turned out, was yes. Jian had an intuitive understanding of pattern recognition that could optimize database search algorithms. Gyungho could visualize complex geometric problems in ways that solved structural engineering challenges. And suddenly, Jiang realized something profound. Her children weren't just subjects in a research study. They were actively valuable in ways that could be monetized. We need to talk, she told Dr. Min, about what this means. They met in Dr. Min's office, the Seoul skyline spread behind them like a promise. The research contract gives you rights to study my children and compensate us for participation, Jiang said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. But it doesn't give you rights to the actual innovations they create, does it? Dr. Min smiled slowly. No, it doesn't. I was wondering when you'd figure that out. So if a company wants to license the algorithm Gunwoo developed, or hire GN to optimize their systems, or work with Ginho on their engineering problems, that would be separate from the research study. That would be your children working as independent consultants, with you negotiating their contracts and protecting their interests. Jiang felt her mind expanding, seeing possibilities she'd never imagined. I don't know how to negotiate with tech companies. No, but I do, Dr. Min interrupted. And more importantly, I know people who do. Jiangxi, you asked me once what the catch was to this whole arrangement. Here's what I didn't tell you then. I didn't just want to study your children's genetics. I wanted to launch them. I wanted to prove that cognitive enhancement research isn't just academic, it's commercially viable, socially valuable, and transformative. She pulled up a presentation on one of her screens. I want to propose a partnership. You, me, and the triplets. We form a consulting company, Call it something like Neuroedge solutions. Your children provide the cognitive innovation. I provide the research credibility and network access. You provide the parental oversight and human story that makes this feel ethical rather than exploitative. What would that even look like? It would look like your children spending 1 day a week solving problems for companies that will pay between 50 and 200 million won per solution. It would look like you becoming the CEO of a company that could be worth billions within 5 years. It would look like transforming your family from poverty to generational wealth in less than a year. Jiang's head was spinning. This is insane. This can't be real. It's already happening, Dr. Min said gently. 3 companies contacted me today offering contracts if your children can solve their pending problems. The market for this kind of cognitive innovation is massive, and you're sitting on the only resource in Korea that can provide it. But they're 8 years old, which is why you'll be the CEO. You'll negotiate their workload, protect their childhood, ensure they're not exploited. But Jiangxi, this opportunity won't wait. If we don't move on this now, someone else will figure out how to monetize cognitive enhancement research, and your family will be left with a study stipend while others make billions from what your children can do. Jiang walked to the window, looking out at Seoul's skyline, the same skyline she'd once watched from a basement window, seeing only the feet of people who walked in a world above her. Now she stood on the 12th floor, being offered a chance to rise even higher. My children's welfare comes first, she said finally. No matter how much money is involved, the moment this starts hurting them, we stop. Agreed. I'll put it in the partnership contract. And I need one other thing. Jiang turned back to face Dr. Min. I need this company operational before Hyun-woo's wedding. I need to walk into that event not as a charity case or a lucky lottery winner, but as a successful CEO with a thriving company. I need it to be undeniable that everything he believed about genetic inferiority was catastrophically wrong. Dr. Min's smile was fierce. Then we have 4 weeks to launch a company and close enough contracts to make you undeniably successful. Are you ready for the most intense month of your life? Jiang thought about Hyun-woo's note on the invitation. Asterisk, I thought you'd want to see how life turns out for people who make good decisions. Asterisk. I'm ready, she said. Let's show Seoul what good decisions actually look like. Neuroedge Solutions launched with a press conference that Dr. Min orchestrated with precision. The message was carefully calibrated. A cutting-edge consulting firm leveraging breakthrough research and cognitive enhancement to solve complex problems in technology, engineering, and data science. The triplets were mentioned but protected their identities, not publicized. Their work described in terms of research team rather than individual children. But word spread quickly in Seoul's interconnected business community. People knew. They knew that the woman who'd been living in a garage basement 3 months ago was now running a company that had just closed a 180 million won contract with Samsung to optimize their AI training protocols. The money was almost incomprehensible. After taxes and Dr. Min's research partnership percentage, Neuroedge's first quarter revenue was projected at 400 million won. Jiang opened a bank account and stared at the balance. 400 million won. 400 million won. 9 years ago, she'd been desperate to afford 12 million won for her daughter's surgery. Now she could pay for 1,000 surgeries. The practical changes came rapidly. She hired a financial advisor who helped her set up trust funds for each of the triplets, ensuring their futures were secure regardless of what happened to the company. She hired a lawyer to manage contracts. She hired a personal assistant to coordinate the increasingly complex schedule of business meetings, research sessions, and critically making sure the triplets still had time to be children. And she hired an image consultant to prepare for Hyun-woo's wedding. I need to look successful, but not trying too hard, Jiang told the stylist. I need to look like someone who belongs in that room naturally, not someone pretending to belong. The stylist studied her critically. You've already lost the poverty posture, the hunched shoulders, the apologetic expression. Good, now we refine. You're not imitating wealth, you're embodying success. There's a difference. The dress they selected was understated elegance, midnight blue silk, simple lines, clearly expensive but not flashy. Jewelry that suggested taste rather than showing off. Hair and makeup that enhanced rather than transformed. When Jiyoung saw herself in the mirror the day before the wedding, she barely recognized the woman looking back. Not because she looked like someone else, but because she looked like herself, the version of herself that had always existed beneath the survival mode and exhaustion. She looked powerful. "Ma, you look like a CEO," Gunwoo said that evening when she showed the triplets the outfit she'd chosen. "I am a CEO," Jiyoung replied, and realized she finally believed it. The triplets would wear matching formal Korean traditional clothes, modified hanbok and deep navy that made them look like young scholars from a historical drama, sophisticated and proper. "Are we ready for this?" Jian asked nervously. "What if people ask us questions? Then you answer politely and honestly," Jiyoung coached. "You're not pretending to be anything you're not. You're 3 brilliant children who've been given opportunities to show what you can do. That's the truth." "What if our father says something mean?" Jingho asked quietly. Jiyoung knelt to his level, taking all 3 children's hands. "Then we remember that his opinion stopped mattering the day he walked away from us. We're not going to his wedding to prove anything to him. We're going to prove something to ourselves, that we built something beautiful and strong without him. And that his absence made us better, not worse." Jiyoung's phone rang at 6 a.m. "Unknown number, Jiyoung C. This is Choi Hajun from Seoul Economic Daily. I'm preparing tomorrow's business section, and I need to verify some information about your company, Neuroedge Solutions." Jiyoung sat up in bed, her mind immediately alert. "What do you need to know?" "I have sources saying your company has closed contracts worth over 600 million won in the past month with Samsung, Hyundai, and Naver. Can you confirm that?" "I can confirm Neuroedge Solutions has been successful in our first quarter. Yes." "And is it true that you're the former wife of Choi Hoon-woo, the executive who's getting married tomorrow in the televised wedding at the Shilla Hotel?" Jiyeon's heart stopped. "How do you know that?" "Seoul is a small city for the wealthy and powerful, Jiyoung-si. Word gets around. Is it true?" She could lie, she could deny it. She could keep this part of her life private, or she could own it. "Yes," Jiyoung said clearly. "Hyun-woo-si and I were married 9 years ago. We separated when I was expecting our children. And now, you're attending his wedding as a CEO of a successful company." "I'm attending because he invited me. Whether I attend as a CEO or as a guest is irrelevant. I'm going as a mother who raised 3 brilliant children despite being told they were genetically inferior. That's the story that matters." There was a pause on the line. "That's one incredible story, Jiyoung-si. Would you be willing to do an interview before the wedding? I think our readers would be very interested in your journey." After the wedding, Jiyoung said firmly, "I'm not doing this for publicity. I'm doing this for my children." "Fair enough. One more question. What does it feel like to go from a basement in Guroju to running a multi-billion-won company in 3 months?" Jiyoung looked at her bedroom, not luxurious, but clean and safe in hers. She looked at the family photo on her nightstand, her and the triplets at the Han River last weekend, all of them laughing. "It feels like finally proving that poverty and worth have nothing to do with each other," she said. "And that the people who judge you based on your circumstances are often the ones least capable of recognizing actual value." After the call ended, Jiyoung sat in the quiet of her bedroom and let herself feel everything she'd been pushing down for 3 months to fear. The disbelief, the overwhelming gratitude, and underneath it all, a burning determination she'd been channeling for 9 years. Tomorrow, she would walk into Hyun-woo's wedding. Tomorrow, she would show him what genetically inferior actually looks like when given a chance. Tomorrow, everything would change. The Shilla Hotel's grand ballroom was designed to overwhelm 3-story ceilings, crystal chandeliers the size of cars, marble floors polished to mirror brightness. The wedding was scheduled for 2 p.m., with pre-ceremony cocktails starting at noon. Jiyoung and the triplets arrived at exactly 12:13, not early enough to seem desperate, not late enough to seem rude. The timing was deliberate, calculated to maximize impact. The moment they stepped through the hotel entrance, heads turned. Jiyoung in her midnight blue silk, moving with a confidence she'd spent 3 months building. The triplets flanking her like small dignitaries, their formal clothes and composed demeanor suggesting preparation far beyond typical 8. They looked like they belonged here. That was the whole point. "May I see your invitation?" The greeter's tone was professional, but contained a subtle note of surprise. These four clearly weren't from Hyunwoo's expected guest list. Jeong presented the cream-colored invitation with its gold lettering, watching the greeter's expression shift from skepticism to careful neutrality as she verified the names. Welcome to the Choi Park wedding. The cocktail reception is through those doors. She bowed, deeper than protocol required. The cocktail reception space was already crowded, Seoul's elite mingling in carefully orchestrated social clusters. Jeong recognized faces from news broadcasts, business leaders, politicians, entertainment figures. This was the world Hyunwoo had built without her, the world he'd accessed by erasing her from his life. Yama, there are cameras, Jeon whispered, noticing the television crew positioned discreetly near the windows. I know, sweetheart. Just remember, we're here as guests, nothing more. We don't perform, we don't prove anything. We just exist as ourselves. They accepted champagne for Jeong and sparkling cider for the triplets from a passing waiter, expensive crystal glasses that caught the light like the chandeliers above. And then Jeong saw him. Hyunwoo stood near the center of the room, surrounded by admirers, looking exactly as she remembered, but refined by age and success. His suit was impeccable, his posture radiating the kind of confidence that comes from never being seriously challenged. He was laughing at something a politician was saying, his hand casually draped around his fiancée's waist. Park Jung-hee was stunning in the way that vast wealth and professional beauty management creates perfect skin, perfect hair, a dress that probably cost more than Jeong's first year of CEO salary. She looked like she'd been designed specifically to stand next to Hyunwoo in photographs. Jeong felt the old familiar pain trying to resurface, the memory of being discarded, being called inferior, being erased from someone's life as if she'd never mattered. Then she felt Gunwoo's hand slip into hers, squeezing gently. She looked down at her son, the child Hyunwoo had rejected before birth, the boy who'd solved problems that stumped PhD researchers, the young man who'd helped transform their family from poverty to success through sheer cognitive brilliance combined with her guidance. The pain dissolved into something else, something fiercer. Let's get some appetizers, Jeong said calmly, steering the triplets toward the refreshment table. They were halfway across the room when someone recognized her. Jeong-si, the voice was shocked, disbelieving. Park Jeong. Jeong turned to find one of Hyunwoo's colleagues, Kim Hunjun. She remembered from years ago, one of the few who'd been kind to her during the separation. Hunjun-si, she greeted him with a genuine smile. It's good to see you. He stared at her as if she'd stepped into the room from an unexpected place. What are you doing here? He asked quietly. How did you get here? I was invited, Jeong replied calmly, noticing nearby conversations, slow as people sensed something unusual unfolding. And these are, Hunjun's gaze shifted to the triplets. Recognition flickered across his face. The resemblance was clear, especially Gun. My children, Jeong said evenly. Gunwoo, Jeonggo, and Jeong. Their names traveled softly through the room. A few guests turned, curiosity replacing casual conversation, as they sensed an unspoken connection. Jeong remained composed. Jeong-si, I didn't realize, Hunjun began, but another voice interrupted. Well, this is unexpected. Jeong turned and met Hyunwoo's gaze for the first time in 9 years. He looked older, more reserved. His eyes moved from her to the children, pausing as understanding slowly settled in. Hyunwoo-si, Jeong said politely. Thank you for the invitation. Congratulations. I didn't think you'd attend, he replied carefully, given how things turned out. Life changes, Jeong said simply. Hyunwoo's fiancé stepped closer, confusion evident as she studied the scene. Oppa, she asked quietly, who are they? Before he could answer, another voice spoke up. That's Park Ji-young, CEO of Neuroedge Solutions, said a man nearby. I've been hoping to meet her. Neuroedge, someone repeated. The firm behind the Samsung Cognitive Systems project. The mood in the room shifted as guests connected the information. A tech executive hesitated before speaking. Jeong-si, I didn't realize you and Hyunwoo-si knew each other. We were married, Jeong said calmly. Years ago our paths separated shortly after. Silence settled gently over the group. Jung-yi looked at Hyunwoo surprised. You were married before. You have children. It's complicated, Hyunwoo began. Gunwoo stepped slightly forward, his voice respectful and clear. Emma always told us that adults sometimes make difficult choices. She raised us with care. Jiyoung placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. A woman approached then, standing beside Jiyoung. Hyunwoo, see, she said evenly. I'm Dr. Min Jung-hwa from the Genomic Research Institute. Hyunwoo frowned. And why are you here? I've been working with Jiyoung-see's children, Dr. Min replied. They're exceptional. The guests listened quietly, attention focused. These 3 children, Dr. Min continued, her voice carrying clearly, have rare genetic variants that give them enhanced cognitive abilities. They learn 3 times faster than normal children. They solve problems that stump PhD researchers. They're generating innovations worth hundreds of millions of won. That's what genetically inferior looks like when you're too ignorant to recognize exceptional value. Hyunwoo was stammering, trying to respond, but Jung-yi had taken a step back from him, her perfect composure cracking. You told me you'd never been married, she said, her voice shaking. You said you had no children. I said I had no family obligations, Hyunwoo corrected desperately. These children aren't my responsibility. They're your biological children, Dr. Min interrupted. We have genetic testing that confirms it. You rejected them based on pseudoscientific eugenics beliefs. And in doing so, you rejected what could have been your greatest pride, 3 brilliant children being raised by an exceptional mother. Jian felt Jian's hand tighten in hers. She looked down to see all 3 triplets watching their biological father, with expressions that weren't hurt or angry, just assessing, judging him by his actions. We should go, Jiang said quietly to Dr. Min. We've made our point, no, Gunwoo said firmly. We came here to show him he was wrong. We should stay. Before Jiang could respond, the venture capitalist who'd recognized her earlier stepped forward. Jiang, see, I don't mean to interrupt, but my firm has been trying to schedule a meeting with you. We're very interested in Series A funding for Neuroedge solutions. Could we set up a time? The mundane business conversation in the middle of Hyunwoo's wedding was surreal. But it served a purpose. It reinforced that Jiyoung wasn't here as a desperate ex. She was here as a successful businesswoman who happened to have a personal history with the groom. Of course, Jiyoung replied smoothly. Have your assistant contact mine. We're reviewing funding proposals next week. More business cards appeared. People who'd been watching, who'd seen the confrontation and made instant calculations about where the real power and opportunity lay in this room. Within minutes, Jiyoung was surrounded by business leaders wanting to connect with her. While Hyunwoo stood isolated with his fiancée, both of them looking shell-shocked. The wedding coordinator appeared, looking panicked. We need to begin seating for the ceremony. There's not going to be a ceremony, Jung-yi said, her voice surprisingly firm despite the tears streaming down her perfect makeup. I'm not marrying someone who lied about his entire past and abandoned his own children. She pulled off her engagement ring and dropped it into Hyunwoo's champagne glass with a plop that was audible in the stunned silence. Then she walked away, her wedding dress trailing behind her. The crowd erupted in whispered conversations. Phones appeared everywhere. And Jiyoung realized that this moment Hyun was wedding imploding because his abandoned family showed up successfully, and undeniable was being broadcast. Live and recorded by dozens of witnesses. This wasn't just personal vindication. This was public reckoning. Hyunwoo stood alone in the center of the room. His perfect wedding collapsed. His lies exposed. His choices laid bare for judgment. And Jiyoung felt nothing. No satisfaction in his pain. No joy in his humiliation. Just a profound sense of completion. We should leave, she said to the triplets and Dr. Min. This isn't our event anymore. As they walked toward the exit, Jiyoung heard Hyunwoo call out behind them, his voice cracking with something that might have been desperation. Jiyoung, wait, we should talk. She stopped but didn't turn around. There's nothing to talk about, Hyunwoo. You made your choices 9 years ago. I made mine. We both have to live with the consequences. But the children, they're mine. They're ours, Jiyoung corrected, finally turning to face him. I gave birth to them. I raised them. I loved them when you called them defective. I built their futures when you walked away from their lives. Biology doesn't make you a father. Love and presence and sacrifice make you a father. And you chose none of those things. She looked at him across the destroyed wedding reception, seeing him clearly for the first time, not as the powerful man who'd rejected her, but as someone who'd made a catastrophic miscalculation and was only now understanding what he'd lost. I hope you find happiness, Jiyoung said, meaning it, but not with us. We found our happiness without you, and we don't need your validation to keep it. As they left the Shilla Hotel, stepping out into the Seoul afternoon, Jiyoung heard the triplets chattering excitedly about everything that had happened. Did you see his face when Dr. Min explained our genetics? Everyone wanted to give Iyama their business cards. That lady said she'd been trying to meet with you for weeks. Jiyoung listened to them process the experience, feeling a profound sense of peace settling over her. They'd come to this wedding to prove something. And they had, but not what she'd expected. They'd proven that worth wasn't determined by someone else's judgment. They'd proven that genetics and circumstance and all the other excuses people used to justify their cruelty meant nothing compared to love, dedication, and the refusal to accept someone else's limited vision of your potential. The basement was gone. The poverty was gone. The fear and shame and desperation all gone. In their place, 3 brilliant children, a successful company, a future full of possibility, and the unshakable knowledge that they'd built something beautiful from the wreckage of abandonment. That was the real victory. Not Hyunwoo's public humiliation, but their private transformation. Not seeking justice, but transcendence. Neuroedge Solutions occupied the entire 15th floor of a Gangnam Tower. Its walls lined with awards and patents and photographs of the triplets being honored by the Minister of Science and Technology. The company was now worth 3 billion won and growing exponentially as more applications for cognitive enhancement research emerged. Jiyoung sat in her corner office, reviewing a contract proposal from an international research consortium, when her assistant knocked. There's someone here without an appointment, she said carefully. Choi Hyunwoo, he says it's important. Jiyoung's first instinct was to refuse. But then she remembered the peace she'd felt leaving his wedding. The freedom that came from letting go of anger. Send him in. Hyunwoo looked different, smaller, somehow, less certain. He'd aged in the past year, stress showing in lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. Thank you for seeing me, he said, standing awkwardly in her office. What do you want, Hyunwoo? I want... He stopped, started again. The past year has been difficult. The wedding video went viral. My company lost several major contracts when clients discovered my past. I've had time to think about the choices I made. And I was wrong. About everything. About you. About the children. About what matters. I threw away my family because I was taught to value the wrong things. And I'm sorry. Jiyoung studied him, seeing genuine remorse but also recognizing that apologies couldn't undo 9 years of absence. I appreciate your apology, she said finally. But the children and I don't need it. We've built a good life. We're happy. Your absence didn't break us, it made us stronger. I know. I've been following Neuroedge's success. The children are remarkable. He paused. Would you consider, could I meet them? Not as their father, but just to know them. Jiyoung paused before replying. The children are 9 years old, she said. I will inform them of your request. If they agree, arrangements can be scheduled. I understand, he said. He stopped briefly near the door. You operate a company. The children are present. He exited the office. Jiyoung remained at her desk. The city skyline was visible through the window. Earlier in the year, she had received an invitation connected to a prior personal association. Since that time, daily activities continued as scheduled. Neuroedge operated on a regular timetable. The children attended school. Household and work responsibilities were maintained. That evening, Jiyoung returned to the apartment registered under her name. Interior lights were on. Voices were audible from another room. Iyama Gunwoo said, "Someone is here." Jiyoung entered the living room. Dr. Min was present, holding a bottle. The Seoul Science Awards have released their recipient list, Dr. Min said. Your organization and the children are listed. The ceremony is next month. Jiang acknowledged the statement. The visit continued. Later, the apartment returned to normal activity levels. The day concluded. This concludes the story segment. Subscribe for additional Korean stories. Leave a comment to continue engagement.